So Zane,
Yes!
how long would you say we've been drinking whiskey?
What year is it?
Exactly. So would you say that we've had a lot of whiskey by now, or we might know a thing or two about whiskey?
I mean, would you say we have a plethora of whiskey?
Oh, we have a plethora.
No, yeah, I would say that we are, shall we say, experts?
We're not experts, but we might know a thing or two about whiskey.
That we might.
So I was thinking, you know, there's a lot of things that people think of true about whiskey that are myths that are just not true.
So you're thinking that there's a lot of things that people think are true about whiskey that just aren't true.
That's true. So I thought today we would talk about 5 myths that we think people think are real about whiskey.
That's just not true?
That's just not true.
Sounds awesome.
Right after this. Welcome to Hold My Whiskey. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Zane, your expert.
We are not experts. Don't tell them that.
I'm still holding the pose.
Oh yeah. We are not experts.
So today we're gonna talk about 5 myths.
5 myths that are not true about whiskey.
Okay.
Because people think they're true.
Well, I mean, is there any credence that they might actually be true?
I think it comes down to how hipster are you?
Well, let's find out.
What are we drinking today anyway? Oh, I've got some
Kings County.
Yeah, I threw some Stranahan's in here. This is pretty good, actually.
That's the one we haven't talked about yet.
We may not talk about it.
Ah.
Because, you know, there are some whiskeys we just don't want you to know about. But if you're here today, please like, share, and
subscribe.
Because it really helps us out, and you never know. We don't know how to get a hold of you and tell you about great giveaways or something we might be doing in the near future.
You know, we want to give away, but if you're not there to said giveaway,
then you don't know about it, and then you miss out.
Myth number 1.
So myth number 1. Older whiskey is better whiskey.
And look, I said it a week ago, I said it a week before that, and a week before that.
And what would you say?
Kings County's the shit.
Oh.
And
no, we don't tell them that.
It's a 2-year whiskey or a 3-year whiskey. You know what
That's right. So back in the early days, right?
Yeah.
When whiskey was not as popular as it is today, they had an overabundance of whiskey. How did they get rid of all this whiskey that the angel share is eating away?
Well, they would have to bottle it.
Which means they got to sell it. So
That's
how do they sell it? By telling you that older whiskey,
this aged whiskey is just
better.
It is so much better.
But that's not true, because all whiskey is made to the taste that the distiller wants it to be at, which means when whiskey is ready, when
whiskey is ready.
That's right. So it doesn't matter if it's age statement or not. It's meant to be what it is.
That is so true. There's a professional that their job is to let us know when it's ready.
That's right, and that's the deal. It's like, so there are people who love age statement whiskeys.
Yeah. And
there are people who love non-age statement whiskeys. It really comes down to preference more than what's better.
I mean, we've all experienced there was a whiskey that's older than another whiskey that was more mellow or something that changed it. But again, that's whether I like it or not, more than the younger whiskey, is a preference point only.
What we're not saying is that older whiskey tastes just like new whiskey. That's not what we're saying.
That is not
what we're saying. Is not necessarily better than new whiskey.
Exactly.
So myth number 1, older whiskey is not necessarily better
than the, well, you know.
Yeah. Myth number 2. All whiskey should be drank neat.
Hey, yes, damn it! I mean, look.
That's like saying you're either first or you're last.
Because there's no second, third base.
I was high when I said that, Ricky.
Yeah, that's right.
No, whiskey is made to be drank however you feel like it's best for you to drink it.
I mean, I may say that the way you drink whiskey is an abomination, but that's just my opinion.
Listen, you can put it in on ice, you can put a little water in it. You could even have it with Coke. I mean, any of that works.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, look, we all know adding a dash of water to a whiskey
can simmer it down a little bit.
Open it up.
That's right.
Or it can do all kinds of amazing things. So, yeah, no, the neat thing, just because that's my preference of how I typically want to enjoy
That doesn't
whiskey.
make it the only way to drink whiskey.
Yeah, because guess what? I don't always drink it neat.
And sometimes you like a good cocktail. And old fashions basically have what in it?
Yeah, whiskey and water and other things. But no, that's
Exactly.
the whole point. Yeah.
So, I mean, don't get caught up in the idea that this is the only way to drink whiskey. You drink whiskey the way it works for you, be that ice, water, or Coke.
I mean,
it's kind of hard to swallow.
they are packaging Jack Daniels with Coca-Cola in a box.
That's true. I mean, and anytime someone goes up to a bar, they're like,
Yeah.
I'll have a Jack and
Coke.
Coke.
Hey, at least you're being a little bit more like acceptable in my book when you say you want like a Malibu rum
Oh, yeah.
and Coke. I like you a lot better.
Yeah, so, I mean, neat, it's just a myth.
It's a myth.
Not the only
It's
way to
a
drink,
myth.
not the
It's
only
a
way to drink
myth.
whiskey.
Yeah, it's a
Now, myth number 3. Blended whiskey is not good whiskey.
Okay, let me explain something to you. 90% of all whiskey is blended whiskey.
That's right. The master distiller's job is to make this preferred taste that they're trying to reach. That requires them to pull barrels from different areas of the distillery or sourced barrels to make that flavor.
So let me go back to one of our original myths. They're pulling from different age statements to make a certain flavor.
That's right. Some whiskey may have a 2-year to a 12-year.
Because damn it, they need that young whiskey in this old whiskey to make it the right flavor. So
that's right.
Then again, blended whiskey is real whiskey.
That's pretty much what whiskey is made. Now, there was a point where if you get a single barrel or a barrel pick or something like that, you're definitely getting a barrel that's only specific to that.
Yeah.
So not all whiskey's blended.
Barrel selects are fun. It's you'll never get that flavor ever again. But that's not,
that's not set in stone. Some of your favorite whiskeys today are blended whiskeys.
And they're good.
They're all great.
So,
I mean,
we're
even
busting
Kings
that
County is a blended whiskey.
Yeah, that's right. So blended whiskeys are good whiskeys.
That's right. Myth number 4. Flavored whiskey is bad whiskey. This is a tough one to swallow, isn't it? Now listen, we've joked about flavored whiskey being that's not whiskey.
Yeah, we have.
But
it's a cordial.
But come on, the marketplace is not lying. Every distillery on the market is jumping in on the flavored whiskey bandwagon. Why is that? Because people are drinking a shit ton of flavored whiskey. I mean, Fireball is like what, the number 2 most popular whiskey in the United States.
Yeah, that's sickening, but yes, that's true.
Right next to Crown Royal, which also has a crap ton of flavored whiskeys.
Yeah.
So I mean, flavored whiskey is not a bad whiskey, and it's not a whiskey. It's just when you become a whiskey geek, a whiskey nerd, you start going toward that whole whiskey hipster thing. You gotta be careful. If you want to know if you're a whiskey hipster, click on this, because when you become a whiskey hipster, you start saying things like, flavored whiskey is not whiskey. It does have the word whiskey in it.
It is still whiskey, as much as it hurts to think of it, but yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing. We just realized this past week that there is actually a flavored whiskey that is now an allocated whiskey.
Which is ridiculous.
It's become rare in a lot of areas, and that is...
It's Crown's peach flavored whiskey.
Crown Royal Peach is now an allocated whiskey, and it's hard to find. I'm like, that's crazy. I don't think I've even ever had it.
Yeah.
Before I was a whiskey nerd and
flavored whiskey is not real whiskey. Why I had it.
That's a myth. Flavored whiskey is good whiskey. There is some really good flavored whiskey out there.
Well, we've reviewed several. We've had the peanut butter flavored whiskey.
I mean, in Crown...
Oil Fire.
Yeah, Oil Fire is a great flavored whiskey. It's a rye whiskey on top of that. So, I mean, there's good flavored whiskey out there. So, it's just a myth. Myth number 5, and probably one of the most important is, well, I can't be in whiskey because I don't know how to taste whiskey.
Yeah, I just don't have the ability to see what everybody else is seeing.
Yeah, whiskey tasting is hard. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Whiskey is what whiskey is based on your palate, your personal preference. Just because you can't taste a specific whiskey now that everybody else is tasting doesn't mean you can't taste whiskey.
Yeah, you learn about all of the different nuances as you go along, but just like eating ice cream, you have to explore the different flavors before you know what pistachio tastes like.
It's like you don't walk into 31 flavors and say, I know what they all taste like before you try them. Now, there's a lot of whiskey channels touting how to taste whiskey, what whiskey tastes like, and you're probably getting pretty frustrated with the idea that maybe I just don't know how to taste whiskey. That's not true. That's just not true. Whiskey is what it is for you. Some people, when they're new, they're like, whiskey tastes like a lot of wood and a lot of alcohol and a lot of heat.
Well, yeah, and that's because that's what you're tasting. However, over time, you start picking up the nuances of what it is, because it tastes hot and it's a lot of alcohol is where we all were at the beginning.
We all were there, and we all started in the same places generally. Jack Daniels, Crown Royal, you know, Wild Turkey, or one of those basic whiskeys, and then as you realize, oh, these other whiskeys taste different. You know, you might have started with a flavor whiskey. You might have started with, like, you know, Vanilla Crown or something like that. And now, you know, like, now you're only drinking Weller Special Reserve because it's $300.
Shame on you. That's ridiculous. $300.
So tasting notes are not set in stone too. When you go visit a distillery's website and they say you should be tasting, you hear us on Second Pour.
Yeah, we do it.
We talk about this is the nose, this is the palate, this is the finish. Just because you're not tasting those things doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means your palate and your taste buds are different.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a bad different. That just means you may never pull those. You may pull something else out of it.
Right. Like pickles.
That's true, like pickles. But that's the thing. I mean, there's no perfect way to try and taste whiskey. So there's nothing that you can't do because it just doesn't get those flavors. That's a myth. Everybody's experience is gonna be different. The great thing about whiskey is why everybody's experience is different.
So you're gonna find things you like and things that you don't like and things that you're like, you like that?
Yeah.
We have these conversations, but that's the best part about it. Is it's a hobby, it's an experience, and it's all based on your personal preferences.
I mean, you and I have tried a lot of whiskeys together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All of us in this room have tried a lot of whiskeys together, and each one of us likes certain ones different than the other one does. Now, when we find one that Zane and I both rate the same or love the same, that's a really damn good whiskey.
Really damn good.
I mean, because, you know, our palates are even different.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, things that I may like, he may not, and it goes vice versa. So, don't frustrate yourself over the myth of you must not be good at tasting whiskey because you don't taste those things. That's just not true.
That's not true.
It'll never be true. So what about you? Is there something about whiskey that you feel like is a myth that's maybe not true? Or maybe there's something you've heard that you think is true, but nobody's really talked to you about it? We'd like to know.
Yeah, because whiskey doesn't make you dumber.
All right, freebie myth number 6. Whiskey shrinks your brain. Listen, that's one study from one type of research that probably wasn't even done as wide as we think it was.
It's poor.
And here's the deal. I know this for a fact. I get smarter as I drink.
Yeah, bring out the bookers.
Let's not bring out the bookers.
We get really smart.
You guys would not want to see Zane and Jeff on bookers. You learn all kinds of stuff about us.
Yeah, we tend to pontificate.
A little too much.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. There's always myths out there about everything, and whiskey does seem to carry its own set of myths. So don't let those frustrate you and get you away from trying a new whiskey that you may have heard, oh, I don't like those flavors, or that you believe that you're just not the whiskey connoisseur you should be.
For real.
It's all a myth. In the meantime, you guys continue to be cool this week. Check us out next week for another Hold My Whiskey, and in the meantime,
cheers.
Cheers, guys.